call is now being recorded.
Welcome to MyBluesRoots.com. Palmdale Slim here, and we have a very special guest today. I'm very excited to introduce everybody to what you would only could say is a master harmonica player, Jason Ricci. He is a BMA winner. He's been nominated this year for a BMA for Best Harmonica Player. He's won so many things that I don't even want to talk about all of the things because it would take too long. But he did win a Grammy this year, which is pretty exciting. Welcome, Jason Ricci.
Mike, thanks for having me. And I should correct you just really quickly. The some of the powers that be have informed me that the correct statement is I was on a Grammy award-winning album.
Well,
so,
yeah, okay, all right.
Right. So, now, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that define that as winning a Grammy, okay?
Right,
and, including Wikipedia. Now, I'm not referring to my Wikipedia page. I'm referring to Wikipedia. However, there are people who are important to me that have told me that to do that takes away from Johnny Winter's accomplishment. So let's just say Johnny got the damn thing, and okay. I'm going to have to work hard and get one of my own later.
Well, I will say this. I really enjoyed your performance on that album. You did the old Willie Dixon tune, the little waltzer song, My Babe, and it was very cool what you did with that because you did it as only you do it, and I really enjoyed that. And,
well,
go ahead.
No, if you want details on that story later, I'd be happy to tell you.
Okay, great. Well, what I do want to, one of the reasons I was excited to have you beyond the aspect of you playing the harmonica, my site is all dedicated to exploring the blues in all genres of American music. So, I don't just talk about blues and I don't just talk about jazz. We talk about rock and country and bluegrass and whatever. And you really represent that with your harmonica, I think, in a way that nobody really has before. I was listening to Down with the Devil today, and I was listening to Afro Blue, which I can't get out of my head right now, by the way. And then you did Walk on the Wild Side. I watched that a few nights ago, and it seems to me like you're just really open to anything that sounds interesting to you. And how did that approach develop musically? Was it something from, being at home and hearing things, or did it develop later in life? How did that happen?
Well, first let me just say that I've been to your site. As soon as we started talking, I went and checked it out, and I was really excited to see Hank Sr. on the site, and also, like you mentioned, of Jimmy Rogers, the singing brakeman, and people like that, because I think people don't realize that there has been that the blues is a derivative music, and it does borrow from other types of music, and has. And I think, Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters and Sonny Boy and some of the original guys would have been the first people to tell you that. And, sure. We listen to Muddy Waters doing songs like Karina, Karina. We got Big Walter doing La Cucaracha.
Right.
So, we have, if I were to record La Cucaracha and the album was to go, like say Big Walter never had, right? If I were to do it and the album was to go in front of a board to review the record for blues, that would certainly be like a strike against me that I did that, right? However, this is something that's 60 years old, the phenomenon of that. So, I think like most people, and I started off listening to blues as a young guy and decided, okay, this is the music. You know what I mean? Like, this is, like, most of us who love this music, a lot of us, this is all we care about anymore. Like, like it's like that Saturday Night Live shit. If it's not Irish, it's crap. It was like, if it's not blues, it's crap, So, like, for a long time, I kind of did that. Like, I mean, from my late teens to my mid-20s, I sort of...
way.
I grew up listening to punk music. I was like, my first purchases on my own that weren't like part of my mother's record collection. It was like, you know, the Ramones and the Misfits and the Dead Kennedys and then later I softened up a little, got into the Pixies and the Breeders and some other stuff, you know. But I was still too cool to like Nirvana because they were too popular. But like, you know, but I liked that kind of stuff. So like when I discovered blues music in the harmonica, you know, at first I discovered the harmonica. I listened to blues only because that's where the good harmonica players were. Exactly. But I didn't care about the music. I didn't care about the guitar players or the horn players or the piano players or the drummers or bassists, nothing. So the songwriting was stupid. I couldn't relate to this music. And then somewhere along the line, man, that switched. And I started enjoying the genre, the culture. I started getting interested in this music in general. And around that time, I think I literally just threw out or left them at home, all of the Ramones records, all of the Pixies records, and I didn't buy any records that weren't blues for like 10 years. And so what happened to me was around 28 years old, and I know you said you didn't want to talk about a lot of other stuff, but this actually is part of the story.
Go ahead.
I was living with a man, and we were involved romantically, and I needed to address this publicly only because I was tired of hiding it, because I cared so much about this person. We were in love that I felt that it was insulting to not acknowledge that. And when my friends would ask me why I wasn't married or who I was dating, I was lying. I was lying and saying, you know, and covering up. So when I gave myself permission to be me fully, this sort of byproduct happened where I just said, you know what? I really love the Pixies. And I really miss listening to that. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to download a damn Lou Reed album today. And so I started listening to the music I grew up on again. And I started realizing that this music is part of me. Now, because if I made that, I apologize, I'm so long-winded. If I may backtrack a bit, in 1995 and 96, I was living with Junior Kimbrough and R.L. Burnside and their kids. Bouncing around from, So during that time period, I was a young guy and I was really very much trying to be black and trying to be authentic and wanted to be the real blues. And that wasn't really working for me down there. Okay. So I found out really quick that this music, blues music, it's not what these guys do. It's just sort of part of them. Yeah. It's part of their church. It's part of their food. It's part of their culture, their history. That these individuals were directly, in some cases, bloodline related to the people, Fred McDowell and John Lee Hooker and Muddy Waters. They were fucking related to them. Yeah, okay?
Right.
And I'm not. And I'm not. I'm a white kid from me. And I can put all the effect on my voice. I can put my hair in a fucking pompadour like Little Walter and put on some shiny suit that I got from a store for $100 and try all I want to pretend to be like one of these guys, but I'm not. So flashback to, I'm 28 years old, I'm from Maine, I came up upper middle class. I like the damn Pixies, and not only do I like them, but I want to do some of it. And you know what I mean? I want to play. I want to scream like that in my song. I want to dress. I want to be me. And I want to be me as an insult to little Walter, not as a disrespect, but it's the highest form of a compliment. That, listen, I get you. I get you. And you are not about an amp or a microphone or a way of recording analog. You are not about a suit or a hairdo or a type of speech. You are about sincerity. And that's what attracted me to your music in the first place. Right. And Mike, I'll take it a step further and maybe be over passionate, which I have a tendency to do, and just say that, you know, I think the reason why kids don't like blues music today is that there's a lack of that. No kid wants to hear a song that the lyrics are, well, about my baby brand new choo-choo toy, bop, 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 bop. First of all, you didn't buy your baby a choo-choo toy. Second of all, if you did, she'd be like, what the hell is that? I wanted an iPod or an iPad or whatever it is.
Or an iPhone or whatever, yeah. Exactly. No, I hear you, because that's I think I see a lot of people, and myself included, at various points in my playing. I mean, you're always trying to emulate somebody, but you really don't. I never really got comfortable playing until I started just playing what I was hearing in my head, and I think that's
man.
You know. And what you hear in your head is pretty damn amazing. You were talking about, dressing, you were talking about clothing, and I'm looking at this picture of you in that red jacket you wore at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That was a very cool evening for you. You were, Paul Butterfield was being inducted, and you were the guy playing the harmonica part that night with the Paul Schaefer Band. That was a pretty exciting night, huh?
Oh my God, dude. That's an understatement. Like, come on, man, that has to be, what gig am I going to tell you was cooler than that, Right. Yeah, what an honor, like, first and foremost, to have Butter's name come up and to be even, like, remotely included in a conversation about potential people to do the job would have been great. Right. Much more to be selected. And, I might be a well-known blues performer with some accolades, but let's be real. On the grand Darwinian musical scale of things, I ain't shit. So to have Schaefer call me...
It's funny because I was watching that night, the night it first aired on HBO with my family, and you're right, they didn't know who you were, but I sure as hell told them, and I was so excited. I was frankly surprised that they had chosen you because you aren't as well known as some of the other guys like Kim Wilson or somebody like that. But I thought,
you think they might have even grabbed Popper. You know what I mean? You would have thought that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like I think I've seen you say, there's a lot of guys that they could have chosen, but I think I was really pleased to see you chosen because I sometimes think you get the banner of, you're not a real blues player because you like to delve into the other things, but I think you showed everybody that night, you know what the hell you're doing.
Oh man, thanks. And, I'm glad you thought so. There were a few that didn't. It wouldn't have mattered, poor Zach Brown. He played the most, traditional solo ever. And he actually played, and even Tom Morello, I'm pretty sure played less notes than Bloomfield. And yet everybody and their brother went on there and said, too many goddamn notes. And it's like, dude, did you ever listen to Bloomfield?
Yeah, you listened to Bloomfield didn't actually exactly lay back.
No, not at all, man. So, those guys got slaughtered by the blues Nazis. I took a little heat, but not nearly as much as them. And probably because they were pretty sure that those guys they were probably aware of the fact that I might read it.
Right.
And they knew Tom Morello and Zach Brown were too busy to read Facebook press.
Right, there you go. Well, what do you think was behind the decision there with Paul Schaefer choosing you? Obviously.
Oh God. Well, yeah. Well, I'll tell you the story just really quick is that I'll tell you the answer first is, well, actually, as far as I'm concerned, we'll never know. I'll just be honest. I was on stage sound checking, and Felicia Collins and I were talking because she's amazing, and I was, I was a little nervous and stuff, and I'd kind of, like been treated not so great, like in terms of like trying to get in to the gig to do it. Like even with all of the right, passes and Lord. Everything. Yeah. And then, I'm trying to get my amp in there and stuff, and they're giving me a hard time, and it was really
already nervous, right?
Yeah, it was really sad. Like when I was going in to register, the woman at the front who was taking the registration for the performers, she said, which act are you with? And I said, I'm with the Paul Butterfield tribute. And she says to me, am I supposed to know who that is? And I said, actually, honey, I said, for once in my life, I can say fucking yes. He's one of the 5 people being inducted into the Hall of Fame tonight, and yes, it is your job to know that band exists this evening. So, I was like, wow. So anyway, it was so bad, they gave me a little name tag. And, it said Paul Butterfield Band. That was my pass. Yeah. I'm walking around and all the autograph hounds are yelling, Paul Butterfield, come here.
Oh, Lord.
They don't even know he's dead, and they're trying to get his autograph. It's like,
my God.
If I was him, do you know how much this autograph would be worth?
Yeah, really?
A dead guy. He rose from the dead, signed an autograph. So anyway, I finally get up there and I'm sound checking, and Zach and Tom Morello were so nice to me, and like even before they heard me play, they were friendly. And after I played a couple of notes on my amp, the whole band started coming up to me and saying, "Wow, dude, like who are you and what's your name and this and that." And Paul came up to me and he goes, "Jason," he goes, "we were so lucky to get you. And thank you so much for agreeing to do this." And I said, "Paul, thank you, and God bless you so much for having me." And I said, "I do have a question, though, if you have a minute." And he's like, "Yeah, I got a minute." He goes, I said, "Listen, buddy, how did I get the job?" And he says to me, he goes, Peter Wolf. Peter Wolf recommended you, and he sent your video to Dan Aykroyd, and Dan sent it to me. Okay, so this is not actually, I think, the truth. Okay, so I go to Peter Wolf, who is the guy doing the speech, the emceeing to induct Butter in. And I got him alone, or with his caretaker girlfriend, and I said, "Hi, Peter." I said, "My name is Jason Ricci, and I'm the harmonica player that's playing Butter's parts tonight." And the guy, and I hate, this is just the truth, the guy's in outer space, Mike.
Yeah, he always was. Holy cow.
He doesn't even know where he is. He's like looking around in the air. Like he's blind or something. Like Stevie Wonder made more eye contact with me, and you know what I mean. It was like, and he can't even put together a complete sentence, or is unwilling to. I don't know which. And so, it occurs to me that the probability that this man saw a video that I did on YouTube and then emailed Dan Aykroyd is probably not really that great. So, the answer to the question is, I don't know how my name came up, and I don't think it came from Peter Wolf. If it did, I'm really sorry for insulting Peter Wolf, because that's a terrible thing to do.
Yeah, right. Well, I was really excited to see you get that gig that night, and I thought it was a cool choice. And so, obviously with everything last year, with you playing on a Grammy-nominated album and this gig you just had, that was a pretty good year for you. And now I see you've got a new album out called Dirty Memory, and let's talk a little bit about that. What's going on with that album? Because I know it's quite a departure from your last two on Delta Groove.
Oh, man. Well, thanks, and thanks for bringing it up. A buddy of mine who I had never met, who's a buddy of mine now, a guy called me a little over a year ago and offered me a great gig. He said, look, I'm a pop singer, songwriter, and I write jingles for like Wonder Bread and tampons and, and products, Kleenex and, and I make a lot of money doing that. And would you be interested? My first love is blues. I've always been interested in your harmonica playing, and I've always wanted to meet you. This all came in an email, actually. And I read the email. So I read the email, and he's like, I want to fly you up to New York City. You're going to stay at the best hotel, and we're going to go to Miley Cyrus's place where she shoots photos, and we're going to do a video, or three, for me to put on YouTube. And it's never going to do anything else besides that. And by the way, the bass player is Tim LaFarge. So now, being a huge fan of jazz music, as well as Derek Trucks, who I really love, I'm like, oh my God, it's so worth it just for Tim. So I go on to YouTube and I decide to look up this J.J. Appleton guy, and I can't believe how good the vocals are. Now, it's pop music, but like we talked about, I love all music, so I'm blown away that I get to work with this guy. And I'm also really blown away that this guy is just doing jingles. Like, I mean, oh my God, these videos he has that are pop and rock, they're like, this guy is amazing. Like, so I'm really excited. I don't know if he can play blues or not, but let's go do it anyway. So he flies me up, we do the record, and it comes out good. But it was my first gig, really, my first real professional thing, besides Johnny. And I'd been out of commission trying to get healthy, and I had legal trouble and all this stuff. So I didn't feel like I played all that well. And, and Tim was very gracious, and JJ I thought was very gracious. But my impression was, deep down, they were probably thinking, wow, Jason really isn't what he used to be. And, that's what I thought. And that's how I felt. And I got on the phone and I called my fiance, and I told her from that fancy hotel room, in the city, I called, I said, I really fucked up, hon. I dropped the ball, and the biggest problem was my time. My time is off, hon, and I just haven't been working with enough drummers, and I need to get back on the I need to get on the metronome, and my time is bad, and my note choices were less than confident, and I didn't do a good job, hon. And she's like, well, it's okay, baby. It's just for YouTube, and you made it, and you got a job, and we got some money. And I thought, yeah, you're right. So I came home kind of with my tail between my legs. And a month later, JJ sent me just the audio of what we had done, which was 4 or 5 tunes. So I'm sitting there, and I have this audio in my email box, and I had a rotten day. And I'm thinking, do I really want to listen to this and hear how bad I am after such a horrible day? But she's in the shower, and I got nothing else to do, so I go ahead and hit play. And what I hear is me playing really, really well. So I'm like, and the thing that I'm the most impressed with is my time. And I'm like, wow, like my time has really improved over the last 4 years.
So you perceived a change in your timing, but you didn't realize it was for the better.
Yeah, I just thought I didn't know where, I couldn't really tell where one was, or where on one was, so like not behind one or ahead of one. I thought I was playing around where one should be, but instead of on one, and the reality was that I was playing perfectly behind, on, and after, at least for a lot of the recording. So, of course nothing's ever perfect, but it was close. So anyway, I called him up at 4 in the morning and I said, JJ, I can't believe these recordings. And he said, I know, right? And I said, dude, I said this, and I hadn't talked to him since we'd been up there because I really wanted to kind of forget it, that it had ever happened. And, you know, it's just chalk it up to, you know, a payday, really. So I said, listen, I got an idea. I said, how about I send you the money you paid me and the flight and everything? How about I work that off and I give you that money back? And I said, why don't you come down here to Indiana? I said, I have a studio here with a great guy, because I do. There's a great guy here. I begged Johnny to let me do the recording here. And that would have meant not hanging out with Johnny. So that's how much I like the studio here in little old Bloomington. And you know, I've been at this 20 years professionally, so I know what a good engineer is like to work with, and this guy is great. So I said, you know, listen, he said, okay, and he said, well, what are we going to do for a bass player? Tim's not available to do the rest of the record. And I said, it's the craziest thing, but there's no great musicians in Bloomington, except there's a bass player who used to work with Eddie Harris, the great jazz saxophonist. I said, he only plays upright. He's the man, dude. And I'm like, this guy is so musical. He's like, well, let me talk to him. So he came down here. We did the rest of the record. We cut the entire thing in one day. The chemistry was so good.
Holy cow.
Every song except for the harmonica solo was a first take. We never went back and did another one. We recorded it all in the same room, no overdubs, and it was just magical.
That's fantastic.
So that's what happened, and then next thing we decided, very much by choice, that we were going to release the album independently. We shopped it to a couple of labels. We had some very humdrum offers on it, and we decided that we wouldn't do that. And, you know, and that's helped and hurt us, Mike. You know, that the decision to go independent is,
I mean, you always it's all on you too, right?
Right. And JJ's really organized. So financially, you know, we did okay, and we did well on iTunes and Amazon. Like, you know, actually we beat everybody except for a long time, except for B.B. King, who died the week we released the record. Yeah. Right. So his records were 1 through 5, and then we were like 6, 7, and 8 in top selling individual tracks. And then the album itself was a number 1, behind BB, was a number 5 bestseller for almost 3 weeks straight. And and it's not important to mention names, but there were some really prominent blues artists that were dropping albums the same week that we did that were not up there with us. So, you know, JJ did an excellent job promoting it. I think I don't think that a record like that has been really made since the Buddy Guy Junior Wells thing. And I don't mean to put us in the same category as those guys. Like, I'm not that arrogant.
It was all stripped down to, you know, bare, and you guys did, like you said, no overdubs. You're all in the room together playing it like you'd be playing in a club or something. Yeah, and like, of course you have like John Cephas and Phil Wiggins putting records out like that. But at the same time, those guys are really traditional. And even though we were playing a lot of super traditional stuff, the way we were doing it and some of the other songs on it just totally didn't fit in that. And the Buddy Guy Junior Wells thing was a very funky acoustic record. Yes.
And so I think that was like, that's the reason I put it in that category. It, you know, again, not to say that we're anything as cool as Buddy and Junior.
No, but I understood exactly where you were going when you said that, because that album had a certain style and sound, and that's what you guys were going for here, it sounds like. And, and I think everybody listening to this should make sure they go to mooncat.org and purchase that sucker as soon as you can.
Thanks, Mike.
Because and you got all your albums in there. I was listening to your Delta Groove stuff today, and I'll tell you what, I wanted, after hearing you talk about your, you know, experiences going down to Memphis and hanging out with the blues guys, not feeling like you fit in. And as I was hearing that, I had listened to the song Broken Toy today, and I thought, boy, that's really what you were feeling, right? And that's what you were talking about earlier. And, you know, you just put yourself out there. And to me, that's what that song Broken Toy was kind of about, wouldn't you say?
Thanks, man. Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. And
I think everybody on some level, maybe not to the extreme of me
sure.
or how that song portrays, but everybody can kind of relate to that,
Well,
especially a lot of like white, middle class kind of people. We have no problems other than bitching about that kind of stuff.
Exactly, right? Because we have food every day and stuff,
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying.
Well, so you did that with JJ, but now you have a new band. I read you're very excited about, a bunch of guys from New Orleans, and you've actually got two guitarists in the band now. And let's start talking about The Bad Kind. First of all,
thanks.
What does the name The Bad Kind mean? I was intrigued when I heard that.
I love the name. It comes from the shark movie Open Water. Have you seen that?
Okay. No, I have not seen it. I heard of it, but
there's this couple that go. It's a true story, and this couple, they go on a vacation, and they decide to do one of those guided like expedition scuba diving tours where you go out on a boat and every like 12 or 14 people or something, and then you all go down and scuba dive, and there's kind of a guy who walks you through it, and then you get back on the boat and you go home, right?
Right.
So what happens is they go and they decide, they're going to break the rules a little bit because it's not their first time doing it. So they kind of stay down a little longer than they're supposed to. They come up and the boat's gone. And the boat had accidentally miscounted the number of people. So they're stuck in the water. So after a few hours, sharks start coming around.
Yikes.
And the girl turns to her boyfriend, who watches tons of Discovery Channel and shows on sharks and stuff. And she says to her boyfriend, "Are those the bad kind?"
I love it.
And he doesn't say anything, but the answer is, yes, those are the bad kind. And, really at that point, there is no such thing as the good kind out there. So the band is called The Bad Kind. In other words,
I like
they're the
that.
kind.
Okay.
Yeah. And also, I might add, too, they really are the bad kind. They're an absolute handful. I'll be honest with you. They're New Orleans musicians. This isn't their first rodeo. They're not young guys. Mm-hmm. They're set in their ways, and some of their ways are not conducive to doing business well. And they're partiers, and I'm not anymore. And they're dangerous. They might fight. And they're in a good mood all the time. They're the bad kind. And so I have them in the band. They're the people that I played with when I was living in New Orleans. And they're the people that I think are best suited to make the best music. And so we've tried to strike a deal here on how to all get along, and we do. We get along really great, and we put together over 150 dates last year, closer to 200, and of just my first year back touring after a few years of research, yeah. And
you were on Skype.
Yeah, I was teaching, and I'm just really lucky to be with them. I really love the two guitar players, and I had to do something different. Sean Starsky was such an amazing guitar player.
Holy cow,
and that there was no way I was going to go into another band situation, no matter who I hired, with the same instrumentation. I was either going to add a piano or an organ, or I was going to add two guitars. Because the other thing that I felt like, with New Blood, I always felt like it wasn't fair that I get to solo and have chords behind me, and that when Sean has to solo, he doesn't get chords. Right. And I always felt like that was an unfair handicap for Sean. Now, of course, Sean was so good that you never noticed it, and I'm not saying the other guys aren't that good too. I'm just saying that I wanted my guys to always have chords behind them whenever they were soloing.
It's about having rhythm guitar behind you when you're doing whatever.
Yeah.
It just adds a level of depth that is just cool, whatever,
Yeah, man, and exactly, bro. And, the other thing, too, is, like, you can pick different chords because like one guy can do a partial chord way up on the neck, and the other guy can do the other part of that chord or a different one. So you can get all these different voicings that are strange and unique. And I really wanted that. And you know, I didn't want to haul a B3 around, man. You know, to be honest, I just didn't want to.
It's tough. It sounds great.
I didn't want
fun to play.
Yeah,
it's fun to play a harmonica and a B3 together. I've done that a couple of times.
Yeah,
really it's fun. But they're big. So
they're big. Yeah, even the new ones, like, you know, the piano players. You know, they got new ones now that they sound almost the same. But you know, I like rock and roll music, and there's something about guitars and something about two guitar bands. And if you can find two guitar players that actually don't hate each other, it's like really great.
Yeah, that's what is that?
Dude, it's even worse trying to get two. Yeah, I did. You know, they're totally different. One of them's like, you know, Sammy, the older one. He's from a very underground famous band called Smilin' Myron, which was a very popular underground New Orleans funk band. And anybody that's real familiar with actual New Orleans funk knows that Smilin' Myron is, you know, the predecessor to Galactic and other bands that like that prior to Galactic, that was, if you were listening to New Orleans funk that was newer than the Meters, you were listening to Smilin' Myron. So before Bonorama, before any of this stuff, and all that stuff, I'm not even slightly taking away from the badass of Dumpster Funk and Bonorama. I mean, those bands are galactic.
Yeah, they're awesome.
They're awesome, right? So I'm not trying to say, well,
but I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
They were the first.
And that brings a whole different sensibility to your music, having guys like that in your band from what you had with New Blood, right?
Right, because I fell in love with New Orleans culture, New Orleans music, New Orleans heritage, New Orleans food, New Orleans architecture, New Orleans dope. The football team, I fell in love with the whole thing. I mean, I wasn't, you know, I fell in love the first time I went there when I was 18, but after living there, it was incredible. And, you know, some of the worst times in my life that I lived there, and it was still amazing. It was still great. And I can't wait to go back. You know, we're moving back in March. And it's very exciting. Yeah, we got to be near the guys. You know, we got to.
Now, I also saw on Facebook a posting you made a couple of days ago where you were very excited that it sounded like you had reached a deal with somebody that was going to be able to give you some overseas bookings. Let's talk about that a little bit. That sounds fun.
Well, sure. I mean, I don't want to get boring, but, you know, we've been going overseas for a while, but it's really not easy for American agents, no matter how good their intentions are, to put together a well-planned, profitable tour in Europe without being able to understand the geography of that country and also the language and a little bit of the culture and mannerisms of people. Lots of things get kind of lost in translation. In emails, people get offended. People don't do their homework on Google Maps. And you end up with tours that are not making as much money as they looked like they were going to in the beginning. So, you know, I've been going over there for 20 years. I'm ashamed to say, I guess almost 20 years. I think my first trip over there was in 96 or 7 or something. So, gosh, a long time. And, and with mixed results. And what happened to me was Walter Trout asked me to go over there.
Okay.
With him. So Walter is huge in Europe. Like Stevie Ray was here.
Well, he had his coming back from his illness. He played Royal Albert Hall that night last year, I think it was. So yeah, they love him over there.
Exactly. And he's had a couple of number one radio hits over there. And I don't mean number one on the blues charts. I mean on regular Belgian and German English radio. He's had some hits over there. So at that time, Britney Spears was under Walter Trout, right?
So you never see that in America, would you?
No. So when Walter asked me to go, it was a serious situation and an opportunity I couldn't pass up. So when I got over there, I learned a lot from Walter, and he was nice enough to not just treat me like a sideman, but treat me like a friend. And, you know, I got to, a couple of times he asked me to come sit with him in the van and, or the bus. And, you know, so I sat next to him, and he kind of asked me some questions about, like, what my intentions were professionally and where I was going with my life and this and that. And then he kind of set me straight on a couple issues. And one of the things he told me right away was, and this was years ago, this was 2007, he said to me, Jason, you gotta stop letting the American agencies book you over here. He goes, listen, he told me, after this tour with me, you're going to be able to play some good places over here, and they're going to rip you off, not intentionally or intentionally. And what you need to do is get a German guy for Germany, a Belgian guy for Belgium, a French guy for France, and you need to tell them that's how you're doing it, and no, you can't have an exclusive clause or whatever, and you all have to work with each other, and tough kitty. And so when I came home, you know, I tried to do that with my American agency, and they weren't having it. And so they strong-armed me into agreeing. So I go back over, and all of a sudden, I'm selling out like 600, 800 seat rooms on a Tuesday, and I'm putting in like 1,000 and 1,100 on a Friday or Saturday. And Mike, I'm not getting paid, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like, everyone's making money except me.
Except you.
Yeah, and it's my name on the marquee. Like, if I have a bad gig, whose fault is it? Mine.
Oh yeah. Right.
If I have a good gig, whose fault is it? Theirs. They're the ones who get to take credit when, you know, financially, you know. And so Walter was right, and I couldn't do anything. And then shortly after that, man, I crashed and burned and went on my, you know, sabbatical. But so when I came back, you know, I came out with, I had known this great agent who used to work for Piedmont, and then one of the moguls of our type of music, Piedmont Booking Agency, was created by a fellow who passed away named Steve Hecht. And Steve was an amazing agent and a huge force in this agency. I mean, in this business, like most of the other blues agencies, were started by people that used to work at Piedmont and then figured it out and decided they're going to. So Steve really did it, like in terms of formally putting bands in clubs all over the country that played blues music. It was Steve's, you know, so Tina used to work there, so when Steve died, she left. And I had done a little work for Steve, but not much because I was basically unemployable. And I just followed her. And so I told her, I said, listen, Tina, we need to work with European agencies. Otherwise, I'm not going to go over to Europe with you. So I refuse. I'll stay at home and I'll teach before I ever set foot on that continent again. And she said to me, you know, Jason, you're going to need to go do a couple of tours for me. And I was mad, boy. And then she said, and you can't bring your band. And you need to go and you need to play with European pickup bands. And I said, and I hate European musicians. I'm not going to do it. And they can play jazz and they can play rock but they can't play blues. I'm not going. And, you know, you can kiss my ass. And she got me some offers and they weren't all that good. And I went and I had to do it. She was right. I did, because nobody believed I could get on a plane, go to Europe, show up and do a good job. And once, because it had been so long and the rumors were so bad about me that I needed to do that. As soon as I did 2 tours, and they were just little ones, like 5 shows in Italy, and then I did like 2 shows in Belgium. As soon as I did that, all of the offers started flooding in from the bigger festivals in Europe. And when I was over there, I made friends with a fella who I had in person, who I had been talking with for a couple of years. named Bernhard Schulte, who runs a fairly small little booking agency out of there and promotional company, who's worked with Nick Moss, who I'm very close with, and some other other American artists. So I trusted him because my buddies work for him, and he agreed, he'll start me off out there. So he's working in conjunction with Tina. He's open to me having other European agents. So all these years later, 6-7 years later, I'm finally taking Walter's advice and trying to do things differently in Europe.
Well, that sounds great, and I'm sure it'll probably make you play better knowing you're being taken care of better. So that's great. Hey, just a few seconds ago, you mentioned that you would, if you couldn't get what you want, you'd stay at home and teach. And I know teaching is a big part of what you do. I mean, I read that you have 15,000 subscribers to your YouTube channel. I'm one of them, and you've had like 4.5 million views. What is it about teaching that is so important to you? Because I got to tell you, I've been playing the harp for over 30 years, and I'm not sure I could really sit down and tell somebody what to do. But you do it so well, and let's talk about that for a little bit.
I think like whether or not you believe in God or not, like spiritually, I think there's something to when we give something away, we learn how to keep it better. And also, I believe that when we give something away, we make room for new things to come in. And the reason I say whether you believe in God or not is because I think physics proves this in most scenarios, that there's only so much matter that can occupy a certain area. So we need to let some of it go. And I think that when I do this, not only do I get the opportunity for more information to come, but I think I have to consider who I'm teaching. So it improves on my empathy, which I think is actually a skill, especially for somebody like as self-absorbed as myself, somebody with like such an ego problem that I have. Like, it's really important for me to step out of my fucking bullshit into somebody else's shoes and think, what is the right combination of words that this person would get? Or where are they at right now? And in doing that, I sort of gain a little humility, which is a rare commodity for me. And I kind of go, oh, okay, wow, none of us understand this. And it is so infinite. And wow, I'm really no different now than I was when I first started. I just have more information. But all I've done is realize how much more information is yet to learn, yet to be learned. So it's very humbling, and it's very wonderful, and I think it reinforces the ideas behind music. And also, when I'm on the road, it's easy for me to, if I'm at home for 2 or 3 months teaching and I go on the road, it only takes me 2 or 3 gigs before all my chops are back, even though I haven't been playing at that level for a couple of months. But when I come back from the road, it takes me 2 or 3 weeks to get my teaching chops back.
Interesting.
And what that tells me, Mike, is that thinking about music, about it and how music works, and I'm talking academically, melody, rhythm, and harmony is harder than just doing it. Okay, and and thinking of ways to describe it, and thinking of ways to make it simple and, God dare I say, fun for people to, that's really, really tough stuff. And when
how do you talk about harmony? I mean, I don't even know where you would begin to explain harmony. You're right. It's
I have some
hear
great
it, but you
ways.
may not be able to say it. Yeah, I know.
like if I'm holding up a black lighter, right, and I'm holding it up in the air, okay, you can tell that's a black lighter. But if I'm wearing a black shirt and I put that black lighter in front of the black shirt, you might not even be able to see that lighter. Now, the lighter hasn't changed value. However, what is behind the lighter has changed value, therefore changing the perceived value of the lighter. That is harmony.
Now, see, you just did it again. You're amazing. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about, though. When you do things like that, I think there's so many of us out there having that aha moment, and then we can move on and, learn whatever it is that, we're trying to figure out because,
right. Like a one draw on a harmonica. That's a one, in cross sharp, it's a 5, but in another position, it's a 1. You know what I mean? So it's still the same reed, same note, same harmonica. The note hasn't changed value, but the chords behind the note have made the note take on a different meaning.
Exactly.
That's harmony.
And I really appreciate what you do because, as I'm sure you've seen, part of our website here is a harmonic instruction page, and I regularly feature some of your videos. In fact, there's one up there now where we've got the pentatonic scale exercise up there right now. So
thanks, man. Thank you.
Hey, I really appreciate you giving me so much of your time, Jason. If I could do like 3 more interviews, I probably wouldn't be done with all the questions I have for you. But I truly want to thank you for spending some time with us today at mybluesroots.com, and good luck to you out there on the road this year. And we're all pulling for you at the BMAs. So thanks very much.
God bless you, Mike. I hope Billy gets this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one he's been around so long, and I think that same thing like with you at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. A lot of people don't know who he is, and he really needs to get the recognition because he's one of the old cats now, right?
He played with Muddy, come on, man, let him throw an old dog a bone, for Christ's sake. Come on, boy.
Well, that album he did with Willie back in the day, that was awesome.
Dude, he's so good. Real quick, we have a tour at the Tina Terry Agency. Sugar Blue, Billy, and myself now are all doing a tour together called Harmonicon.
I'm glad you mentioned that. It's called Harmonicon?
Yeah.
That's awesome. When does that start?
Well, there's not any dates on the 2016 calendar. I mean, I'm sure there'll be a few, but it's a fairly expensive package. So only festivals are biting at it right now, and we have yet to book a theater gig, but I'm hope that's in the works for later. I'm getting, as a kid, I'm 41, but I'm a kid compared to those guys. I was certainly a kid when they were already well-established pros. It's like what a dream come true. And hanging out with them, they're just like the best people, dude. Like, Billy is so funny. Dude, he is so funny. Like, that guy's hilarious. And he's really serious, too, at the same time. Like, he's just crazy. Like, so anyway, those guys are great. Also, just really quick for the harmonica guys, April 6th through 9th, I have a harmonica convention that I throw in Indianapolis. So we're driving up from New Orleans to come back here where I am now, where I'm moving away from, and we have a 4-day instructional event where we teach harmonica, and I get the best teachers from all over the country that I can find, and we all stay at a hotel and we do nothing but teach and learn harmonica for 4 days.
That sounds fantastic, and everybody should sign up for that if you can find your way.
Harmonica Collective. Yeah, harmonicacollective.com. Thanks, Mike. I won't be any...
harmonicacollective.com. Thank you very much,
sir.
Jason. All right.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.